interesting topics that we have lined up and a lot of things. Uh, so if we can just start the session. So I'm Gayatri and I'm the host for this room today. Can you hear? I think yes. Yes. Uh, yeah, if we can just settle in because it's... Yeah. Thank you. Before we begin, we have a few housekeeping announcements. Sorry for this change and reorganization that we had to. Believe me, it is for an effective delivery of the session that's here. And please request you all to kind of, there is a lot of time outside that we can do the charcha, and here we can do the charcha inside. So if you can have that, please put your mobile phones on silent. If you need any assistance, there are people with Chatta t-shirts outside. There is a QR code behind the agenda panel, printed agenda and the attendee kit. Share your feedback. You can give the feedback as many number of times, so you can keep scanning it. And there is also a very good networking space towards the left of this hall. Towards the breaks, you people can utilize it. And we are specifically delighted to have Bridgespan Group as the co-host today for this session. And we all know that India is at a critical juncture, that we are facing urgent challenges. There's poverty, inequality, climate change. And this panel specifically will focus on how bold, innovative philanthropic actions supported by cross-section collaborations can drive large-scale changes that we need. I'm handing over the stage to Akshay Gambhir from the Bridgespan Group. He's also the co-author for the recent publication, Growing Momentum Behind Philanthropic Collaborations in India. And over to you, Akshay. Thank you all. Enjoy the session.
Thank you, Gayatri. Hello, everyone. I'm Akshay from the Bridgespan Group, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the session on leveraging collaborative action in philanthropy. I would like to apologize in advance to everybody who's standing who could not find a space, as well as those who are looking to find some allocated seating, but we'll ensure to have a great discussion today that hopefully will be energizing, and hopefully you'll all be able to go back with a lot of ideas informing your work outside of this room. So we have a packed agenda today in the next 70 minutes. We'll start off with a short presentation on this initiative called the Collaborative Resource Hub that we're starting, which will be followed by a panel discussion with a few leaders from the CSR and philanthropy space. And at the end, we'll have a short brainstorming discussion with you all that will hopefully provide space for you to share your ideas, as well as take back some thoughts that can, as I mentioned, inform your work outside of this room post this discussion. So without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Anant Bhagwati, who's a partner at Bridgespan, to just talk about the Collaborative Resources Hub.
All right. Hi. It's nice to see many friends here. Apologies. We usually are the culprits of many, chaotic starts. This was not an exception. But hopefully, the conversation will be real. We have more questions than answers, but it's a topic which we believe is quite interesting to consider. As we go into this, what is Collaborative Resource Hub? End of the day, we will argue today that collaboration as a verb is critical to achieve full impact potential, and it is not happening enough. At the same time, we also have green shoots. We have leaders in the room who have the intent, but intent is not sufficient. So we'll talk a little bit about the how. And as we go through the discussion, we want to make it action-oriented. We are launching something known as the Collaborative Resource Hub, whose only purpose is to help people in this room, leaders in this room, whether it's CSR, philanthropists, practitioners, to explore how to include collaboration in your strategy, in your work. What is the pattern here? What's interesting here on the screen? And many of you are the leaders who have shaped this, are running this, are experiencing this. I can see Aarti, I can see many leaders. I know Shailja is here somewhere, I'm hoping, um, on her way. Um, Shout out, like, collaborations, how many do you think are there? Don't count this. There are some more which are not on the screen. We didn't have the space. So, if you went back about 15 years, there were two instances of collaboration slash collaborative action. And obviously, one of the early leaders on that was Dasra, right, around the adolescence topic. Something really has happened in this asset class. Today there are, and when we did the report, it was about 45. Today we know it has crossed 50. Now, it is not to say that this is unique. Collaboration has always been happening. Collaboration has been happening in a slightly more implicit manner, but what we are seeing now is a quite an explicit focus on collaborating more for some very tangible reasons, but also people who are doing this are clear about this is not easy, so it's one of those asset classes like equity. If you don't do it, you'll significantly underperform your returns. But while doing it, you have to be more careful than investing in FDs. So think of this as an asset class which philanthropists, CSRs, practitioners can, pick up the tools around. What is collaborative action? It is pooling of resources. It is collaborating with different actors. And it is really going after systems change. I think the last point is interesting because it's hard to actually think about systems change if you only have one capability or you have a one network. Systems, by definition, are multi-capability, multi-network nodes. By collaborating, you both build multiple capabilities, you start creating risk diffusion, but also you start creating a wider network. And I know that many leaders in this room are thinking bold and are thinking around systems change. This asset class has been growing not just in India, but globally. And as we look at this, and we have been looking at this as Bridgespan for now over 10 years, really it is an exponential change. Now, this is not to say that it's all hunky-dory, and we'll come to some of the things as India we can avoid, some of the mistakes that are being made by others. But having said that, it's hard to ignore an asset class where we are seeing exponential growth, not just in the numbers, but also in the capital which is being deployed. Why is that happening? And again, just an India statistic, there has been a 3x increase in the numbers, but interestingly, a 5x increase in the capital, which means the capital per collaboration has gone up. So it's not just an increase in the number of collaborations, but also people are finding confidence to put in more there. This is, I think, the most critical slide which I'd like to share. We always measure something known as Net Promoter Score. We look at how does that track, because if you are not investing in an asset class in the second round, it means there's something wrong in the asset class. What we are finding in collaboratives is they are getting, the people who are working in collaboratives, after their first round of investments in that or working on collaborations, they actually amp up their game. They go deeper into collaboration. So it's one of those asset classes where it feels a little daunting initially, but it also then starts becoming more and more exciting. And as you can see, NPS of 86% is literally unheard of. I think what's happening right now is people are seeing the benefits. Some of the challenges will start playing out, but it's also something where we are seeing potential growth in the future. Where is the problem? The problem is more than 2/3 of the most successful collaboratives you saw on the page 1, where you did the pattern recognition, are actually funded by dollar money, anchored by dollar money. And only 1/3 are anchored by rupee money. What do I mean by anchored? It means that if you're doing a collaboration, someone has to pay for the plumbing. That someone is critical because if no one pays for the plumbing, you can't actually build anything on top. And obviously, there are great names on the slide. You can see Nilekani's Amit Chandra. You can see some of the other names as well. But it is an opportunity because at some level, if domestic capital does not double down into this, while India is benefiting from collaborative action, it is not yet anchoring collaborative action, especially from the funding side. To us, it's an opportunity because as that happens more and more, like in the startup ecosystem, it starts creating more sustainability and depth in that asset class. So why is it not happening already? I mean, a question we get asked a lot is, if it's so great, why not happening? 3 reasons, and this is not intent. Intent is already there. I think first is there are very high discovery costs. Even if I ask this room, do we know for your topic, for the area that is core to your strategy, let's say livelihood, who are the 10 people in this room who are working on livelihoods? And let's take another turn and say which geographies. It'll be hard because in some ways the system today is oriented towards execution, but discovering who else is doing what in a way which is slightly non-execution focused is hard. The second is, let's call it out. People want to see name on the door. Collaboration does not work if why you're doing the work is because you want to see name on the door. But if one can get beyond wanting to see name on the door only, over time, people will attribute the legacy building to you. No one debates who has created the cancer control movement in India, right? No one debates who was behind Nanhi Kali. But the name on the door does not exist. And the last one is really, there is too much execution firefighting today, which one completely empathizes. So really there's inertia. And someone has to also take a step back saying, fine, we are doing the day-to-day, but how do we actually think 5, 10 years ahead? So these 3 things we are finding very significantly holding back collaborative action here. To make a small dent in this, together with many partners and many supporters, today we want to start a journey where we are calling it as the resource hub. Essentially to do 3 very simple things. Help organizations discover high impact collaborative opportunities in areas which are aligned to their strategy. And also discover potential partners, especially domestic funders. Secondly, ensure a trust-based dissemination, not dissemination where it's just random information, but really trust-based dissemination, where you know that this thing will work. Because one of the things which is critical is the trust is the precursor to collaboration happening. And really supporting high-quality design, because collaboration done well can lead to significantly higher leverage than without collaboration. I want to clarify, collaboration does not mean you change your strategy. Collaboration does not mean you do different things. It means you do the same strategy, same direction, differently. And I believe that is very critical because, we are not saying collaboration means you go in a completely different direction. And what does that really mean? It could mean that you do coordinated design with someone else who's also working in the same area or geography. It could mean you have a funder partnership with another funder or 2 funders. It could mean you do shared investment in an asset, which is quite critical and none of you alone can do it. Or it could mean that actually you create a multi-stakeholder collaborative. All we want to say is it does not really matter what pathway you choose a pathway. And secondly, do not change your strategy, change how you're executing the strategy. Our math tells us that due to the capability leverage, which means you bring capabilities together, financial leverage, you get finances together, and innovation leverage, you learn from others' mistakes, you actually can realize up to 10x impact multiplication, which means for the same X money, you can get 10x the return. I mean, there are very few other investments one could make to get a 10x impact leverage today. We are live. This is live. Reach out to, as you go through the day, a Bridgespan colleague to know more. And one thing that we would promise you is if you are an action-oriented funder, practitioner, we would not lag in supporting, at least discovering the power of collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anant. So we'll now move on to the next section of our time together and unpack a little bit deeper some of the things that Anant touched upon in a conversation with a few leaders from the CSR and philanthropy space who fall across different points on the spectrum that you just saw, just to hear from them on their experiences and their journey. So first up, I'd like to invite Pooja on the dais. Pooja is leading Women's Economic Empowerment Initiative called Kabil for the Mahindra Group and the CSR team. She holds a global MBA from INSEAD and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Economics and Environmental Studies from University of Rochester. She has over 25 years of work experience at several Fortune 500 companies and is now keen to leverage her experience towards sustainable business practices and ESG, a topic that she is deeply passionate about. Thank you, Pooja. Next, I'd like to invite Kurush. Kurush Irani is the President Group Head CSR at Bajaj Finserv Limited. He's responsible for designing the overarching group CSR strategy and make sure it aligns with its goals and programs. Skilling, holistic development, and well-being of children and youth are Kurush's focus areas. Thank you so much, Kurush. Next, we have Vanita from Reliance Foundation. Dr. Vanita Sharma is an advisor on strategic initiatives at Reliance Foundation in India. She has 20 years international experience in the social sector, corporate social responsibility and communication space across UK, South Asia and Africa, working across corporates, academia and charitable foundations. And we also have Karthik from SIF. Karthik is the Director of Program Excellence India at Children's Investment Fund Foundation. He leads SIF's work in child health, development, girl capital, sexual reproductive health, climate and child protection in India. And to moderate this discussion, I'd invite Pritha from Bridgespan. Pritha is partner and co-head of Asia and Africa at Bridgespan. She also serves as the head of Bridgespan's India office. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Pritha and a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you.
Thanks, Akshay. And thanks, Anand, for the introduction. We are very excited here, not just to do this discussion, but as Anand said, to have this day to launch the Collaboratives Resource Hub. We at Bridgespan are really interested in building the whole sector's capability to collaborate more, and some of the constraints that you saw to unlock more domestic capital from participating in sector and nation building, as well as to collaborate for greater impact, is definitely something we've been hearing over the last several years in India. And the pandemic actually had a silver lining to promote a lot more collaborative effort. You know, the African proverb often comes to my mind about saying that, you know, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, then go together. And I think that really captures what we need to do in collaborative philanthropy. Because by doing more solo work, more programmatic work, each of us is making an impact. But a lot of times, to have long-term social change, you do need more collaborators, each of who bring different human resources, financial resources, and network capabilities to the problem. So on that note, I'm delighted to welcome the panelists. Each of them are at different stages of evolving their own impact journey and collaborating. So I hope that will also present to this audience and beyond what is the power to collaborate and actually look boldly at philanthropy being more of a risk capital role to address social problems, not just providing band-aid solutions. I'd like to maybe begin with Kurush at the Bajaj Group. Like we heard in the introduction, he's leading a lot of the efforts there. The Bajaj Group has committed about 5,000 rupees crores over the next 5 years with a specific focus on skilling and helping nearly 20 million Indians in the Beyond Bajaj initiative. You know, a very bold initiative with ambitions to actually solve some of the problems related to skilling. And I'd love to hear from Kurush to begin with about how you're actually approaching this bold bet. What is your thinking about potentially collaborating with other stakeholders?
Thank you, Pritha. So a few months back, at a consolidated group level, and I would say that that itself is a collaborative at a very basic stage, because while we associate Bajaj as one group, there are actually different distinct entities within the family. But at a collective level, across the Bajaj Group, across the families, we've all convened to say that our focus is skilling. We've been on that journey for the last few years, but towards that taking a bolder bet in terms of money, time, and the impact we're trying to do. If I were to actually relate back with what Anand showed on the continuum of collaboratives, I think we're at the extreme left. I think we still have a long way to go. So we may have done this not with an intent of collaborative, some of it is just incidental. But I think from an intentional perspective, we're still on the extreme left. But if I take this specific example, Pritha, one, the groups are coming together within the Bajaj family. So we are trying to coordinate in terms of what we do, but in a federated manner. Right? So it's more about keeping each other informed, sharing of practices, the way Anand shared out. Second, as part of that is, we are collaborating with CII. So along with CII, we're setting up a center of skilling. So this is again taking an industry body who has been associated for skilling much before any of the recent things one have seen in skilling over the last maybe 10 odd years. So we are working with them to set up a center of skilling which will look into right from research to what are the skills required, how do we plug for that, and it's a multi-year commitment from that end. And then each of us is going to pick up our respective areas in terms of how we take it forward. When we were having this discussion with Anand a few weeks back, I think that was the question we were discussing, that the money involved is quite significant. The commitment is large. If we try to do things on our own, which is typically what we've done at a local optimum level, we will get somewhere. But is there an opportunity to think about this differently, how we can collaborate? Today we are part of some of these collaboratives as a late entrant. So we are not an early entrant, we come in much later in a small way to wet our feet and test how it's happening. And a lot of it is, I think, because of unawareness, inertia. I would like to hope and wish it's not the middle bucket, but who knows, that could also be a fact. But it's a combination of that, right? But we want to go down that direction. So a lot of this is just trying to figure out what is needed. But it has to tie back to the commonality, right? It's not about doing different things. How do we find an ecosystem of partners? And partners, in my view, is not just the funders coming together. I think getting the funders together is only one part of the equation. It's how do we implement on the ground. And we've made some attempts in that, and we've seen the challenges out there as well as the opportunities. So Pritha, we are on the left hand of the continuum. We want to make progress, but we want to learn and take it forward from there.
No, thank you so much. I think that candor is refreshing, and also the interest to learn more and find more partnerships. And I think Kurush actually nailed a point that's so unique about the Indian ecosystem, because majority of the collaborations here are multi-stakeholder. Whereas if you look at the United States, majority are just funder collaboratives. Whereas in India, we are very unique in having non-profit partners, sometimes even government departments partnering and being a key part of the collaborative alongside CSR, philanthropy, and other types of funders. Moving on to Karthik, SIF has traditionally been a very strong proponent to solve problems, whether you look at climate or the Girl Capital program. And we know recently you all have also made the move to shift more into ecosystem level play, building stronger ecosystems in the areas you work in. So could you tell us a little bit more about where you see collaboratives supporting that mission and what you all are looking at in India?
Sure. Thanks, Pritha, for that. So just to give you a little bit of background, SIF is a private philanthropic foundation that's registered in the UK, and we are the largest children's philanthropy in the world. And we really work at moments when it's critical for children to have the right opportunity for growth. So that's what really drives our overall organizational mission. So we broadly work on areas of keeping children safe, getting them educated, getting them skilled, ensuring that their health and nutrition are taken care of. So these are the broad areas that we work. And then we also work on climate, ensuring that they actually have a planet that can let them thrive and grow into responsible adults for the planet as well. So that's sort of the underlying ethos of what our organization does. And we are driven in our investment making and our grant making by the philosophy of our founder, Sir Christopher Horn. He always tells us, we are here not to give grants, but to solve problems, right? And that's critical for us in terms of how we think about our own investments and design. So for about the last 10, 12 years, we've been really going on a journey for ourselves as an organization on collaboration. So we started out with actually looking for partners that have multiple skills, multiple tactics, a diversity of operations. So we wanted to really start broad on that. Then we also have something that's baked into our internal systems where we said, for every investment that we make, we really need to be very intentional about who is co-funding us, and what funding is aligned to the work that we are doing, right? So that was the next level where we sort of started bringing together ideas and resources around ideas as well. And then we had a team that was dedicated to organizational development within us. So where we really looked at who are the critical partners who can help us achieve our ambition, where just beyond the money that we can give, right? So then we started working on that sector. And about a year ago, we made a very pivotal shift. And this is something that I feel quite proud to also say, is now we actually have an organizational ecosystem development team, and we probably have the first chief ecosystem development officer role within the philanthropy space in Europe as well, right? So we are really committed to wanting to see the ecosystem grow, the ecosystem come together and solve for problems. And this is really critical because some of the issues that we pick, we completely recognize the tail cannot wag the dog. We are just a drop in the ocean. We need a diversity of skills. We need a diversity of capital. We need really a diversity in terms of people who can bring ideas, risk, defray risk, all of that. So we really believe in an ecosystem-led approach to our work, and therefore we've now pivoted our work into looking at missions. So we really have identified like 3 critical areas for India where we are really wanting to solve low birth weight amongst children. We want to set up girls for success, and we really want to shift impact in terms of subnational action on climate work. So these are our 3 big missions where we are really looking to build ecosystems and see how we can bring together the diversity of ideas, partners, resources, and skills to be able to execute on that.
Thanks, Karthik. I think that's really interesting that you'll have chosen 3 areas to go deep on. And I think just on that note, I will also challenge all of you in the room as actors, funders, to actually pick a couple of issues, but to go deeper, in whichever way that you're resourced to address the issue. Because often what we'll find is that unless you address the root cause, there is stemming of the blood somewhere else, but you're going to have that same problem originate, if there is a shock to the system, like say COVID, where we saw the world regress on many issues. And I think that's where, collaborations and building ecosystems also comes in, like Karthik was mentioning. I'll move on to Pooja, where I know the Mahindra Group is a little more advanced in their journey on collaboration, particularly in the women's economic empowerment area, where they're looking to, again, much more go bigger in scale of impact. So Pooja, would love to hear where you all started and what are the opportunities you're seeing for collaboration there?
Thanks, Pritha. So I'll start with a little bit of the legacy that I think, Anant also mentioned earlier, that everyone's familiar with the Nani Kali program, which started 3 decades ago. And building upon success has been quite key. What are the learnings? What are the insights that we've been able to gather, either through just our own process and also working with other partners? So we work with other implementation and execution partners. And the idea was that, educating girls is one aspect of it, but what happens to girls when they come into the, into education and into their adolescence, what happens to them after that? Do they go back to their life, which is not really empowering it for income and agency? So the idea was that we had a youth skilling program as well, which then pivoted to an all-women program in 2021. And our senior leadership has committed one of their top 10 ESG commitments for the Mahindra Group at the group level to empower 1 million women by 2026. This is a very aspirational target, as everyone in the ecosystem knows. And one of the themes from this morning I have heard repeatedly in all the sessions is design differently. And I think that really resonated with me because it's not about changing what you're doing or changing your strategy. It's about designing the programs differently by building upon shared insights, shared vision of what everyone has, together learned over the years, how the system has progressed or the ecosystem has progressed as well. And empowering 1 million women doesn't just mean skilling them. It means creating linkages to opportunities for job in the formal sector, which is what we're focusing on, being that we're a private sector organization and being that we were in auto and manufacturing. How do you kind of counsel and groom women today to join non-traditional livelihoods, because typically it was seen as a male-dominated sector as well. And part of India's growth story, everyone talks about a $5 trillion economy. We cannot achieve $5 trillion economy and fuel growth without social equity. And part of that would mean bringing women into non-traditional jobs, which were not previously thought about, get away from the stitching and the cosmetology. Why can't women do these roles? But it requires very deep collaboration with partners and stakeholders in the ecosystem to understand the learnings, to build upon each other's competencies, and figure out that how do you match that demand and supply by creating jobs and solving for the known issues today that exist, that I will not re-harp on, that everyone knows about: the socio-cultural barriers, the migration, mobility issues, hyper-local jobs that women face, safety being the theme currently. So solving for that through a job portal, which we will be launching very soon, which is a women-only job portal for entry-level women, where we continue to skill women through physical intervention, because we think that's very important. So we're calling it a phygital portal, because we don't think you can do away with the physical element of skilling. But how do you solve for the demand gaps, solving for the talent gaps that exist between private sector, government, MSMEs that are looking for right, appropriate talent, are not able to source them. And the same thing goes for the women who are stuck in the same kind of process of what they think they need to study or do to get jobs. How do you solve for the gap between education and employment? And that's kind of where we will focus. I'll stop talking, but I know we'll cover this in more detail.
No, thanks. I mean, I think one of the things that Pooja is bringing out is looking at a problem more holistically, right? Looking at the demand side, the supply side, the enabling environment. And often collaborations take more time to set up, like just setting up a program on one of these anchors is, you might do it faster. But like I started initially, you will not go too far in addressing or solving the issue, as Karthik mentioned. So I think what Pooja is also bringing out is the power of looking holistically, and hence the need to collaborate.
Yeah, just wanted to add to that, Pritha, because I think everyone has good, like Anand said, good intent, but everyone is capped by resources and their own process. So if you are building upon that, the only way you can do it, and the only way we can achieve it as well, is through collaboration, because you are able to achieve more impact and scale by building upon what already exists. And I know you said the same thing, Kurush, is you kind of reach an end after which you cannot grow. That's what you can do. So we skilled 200,000 women last year, and to date, cumulatively, we've skilled 800,000 women. But then what? You still have to figure out how they create unemployment as a concern, what is the skill gap. You have to collaborate with other organizations to then take it to the next level.
Yeah. Thank you. I'll move on to Vanita. Reliance Foundation is reaching a milestone year next year, and also looking at really upping their ambition and social impact aspirations. I would also say that Reliance Foundation is very unique in investing deeply in research and knowledge that Vanita heads, which is, again, very different, because as you look at collaborations, it's not just about what you learn from programs, but to really live into that learning backbone, right? Like, what is the lessons learned, what's the knowledge that you want to share with the world and bring back to your organization. And they're doing deep work in early childhood, foundational literacy, women's empowerment, etc. So Vanita, would love to hear from you on where you see the opportunity to collaborate. And as one of the larger domestic foundations, not just in India, but globally and in Asia, what are your aspirations for collaborating?
Thanks, Pritha. So again, maybe just to start with a little bit of background, as a foundation, I still say we're quite a young foundation. We started in 2010, so we're approaching our 15 years. And we work in a range of different areas. We work all across India, and we work in rural transformation, health, education, sports, disaster management, art and culture, and we have a strong focus on empowering women and children and youth. So our work is very broad in scale, but also very deep in all of the areas where we work. And we have our own specialist teams for each of those areas who work on delivering and developing our programs. But for us, partnerships and collaboratives is a big part of what we do. We really feel that one organization on our own, we can't do it all, like everybody's been saying. So having collaboratives, partnerships is critical. And what really excites us when we look at the possibility of partnerships is Yes, if you're putting capital together, then obviously you can achieve a greater scale. But for us, what really excites us is how when you can come together and bring together diverse ranges of partners, how you can achieve greater impact together. And I think that's very much what drives us. And in terms of how we partner, I would say that we're both towards the end of the spectrum, but also at the beginning of the spectrum. I think it's an ongoing learning journey across all areas. And we partner with large foundations, multilaterals, but also the smallest of NGOs, and who are very hyper-local and bring their skills and knowledge to the table. And I think when we're looking at partnerships, I think one of the other pieces for us is that we look at what is it that we're actually going to achieve together. Where is the commonality? Firstly, in terms of purpose, but then how are we going to, by coming together as two organizations, how can we achieve more? And that's not just in the numbers. It's in the knowledge and expertise that we would all bring to the table to co-develop and implement a program. And I think also, as you were saying, that it's also very important to come early to the table so that you can be involved at that stage to sort of co-design new initiatives. And I think the last thing I'll touch on is that, as Pritha was saying, we really do also believe very strongly that there's a lot that can also be done outside of formal partnerships, through gatherings like this even, where you're learning from each other, who's doing what in the sector. Maybe it may not result in a formal collaboration, but learning what others are doing so that either you're not duplicating or you take on board those learnings and use that to shape your work, I think is incredibly important. And that's why we're also investing very strongly in sort of research and the sort of publications that we look at and work on are about sharing best practice from our work, but also on the areas and topics that we're focusing on, also including lessons and learnings from other organizations that are working in the sector as well, so that we can learn from each other and take things forward.
Great, thank you. I wish this had been the last round because that would have been a nice segue into, we are actually planning about 25-30 minutes into tapping the experience and expertise of this room here. But in the interest of time, maybe just 5 more minutes and then we'll move to exactly what Vanita described about learning what everybody here can contribute. Maybe 1 minute each for each of you, and I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot since we started with the comfort zone of describing what you're doing and where you see collaboration. So now the challenge question, can each of you describe what was one hard thing you experienced or think you might experience given the DNA and work of your organization in collaboration? And the reason I ask this is that, most often we're all talking about what we do very well, but very rarely sharing what are some of the failures or challenges of collaborating, which in part the Resource Hub also seeks to address. So maybe just a minute for each of you to say one hard thing. I'm sure there are many in your day-to-day, because as we all know, social change is more evolution, not revolutionary. But what is that one hard thing in evolving that you've experienced in the line or journey towards collaborating? And if I might start in the reverse order, since Vanita, I know you're holding your mic close, so why don't you go first while giving others a bit of time to think?
I would say one hard thing is that it's really important that when you're coming together as organizations, you also really get to know each other. So you may have a commonality of purpose. You'll work out all the things like, your the implementation plan, the governance plan, etc. But all organizations have different styles of working with each other. So I think one of the things that we've found is really important is that also really invest in getting to know each other really well as the teams that are working on a program, so that you evolve a working style that works for you as a consortium or as a collaborative, and that's something that you're all coming together as that one team to work on, rather than it's 5 different organizations working on something and you're all coming from different perspectives. So I think we found that's really crucial for the success of a partnership.
Great, thanks. Pooja, over to you.
I'll just build upon what Vanita said. I think it comes down to, breaking the systematic challenges and kind of moving beyond that, is what are the shared goals, what are the shared visions that you can actually build confidence in each other to say you're not reinventing the wheel, but you're actually complementing skills and partnering for that. And I think that takes a lot of collaboration, a lot of conversation. You have to share a lot of data and insights, and there has to be trust and credibility that you know from experience or from your learnings that you are able to execute that. And I think it's about letting other people also know, like you rightly said, what you're doing, instead of somebody else doing the same thing over, you build upon that foundation, and that's when you create the real impact.
A few things, Pritha, and this is basis small attempts you have made at a very local level. So I think, like Vanita and Pooja called out, one part is clearly the commonality, a Venn diagram intersection, that where is the commonality you want to focus on. Now, if that may be true even from a funding perspective, for the beneficiary segment, the solution may not be just one partner. You have to bring in multiple interventions. So again, the commonality of how those will work together, both from a design as well as from an ability to work. Other thing is, are we creating adequate capacity to execute that? Because unless you have capacitized this in a proper program manner, you will get consumed in just the running and the firefighting of it, because this needs to be run like a dedicated program with the right systems, process, controls, and measurements. How do we bring that together? Nobody can argue against collaboration. I think it's futile to argue against it. But I think the devil is in how do you execute the details, and that's where things start faltering.
So not much new to add going last after three great speakers. But I think for us, what's been our biggest pain point is the form, which determines function, right? And I think the form is basically driven by a combination of governance and management. Like how flexible can we be on the governance aspect of it, and how much of trust can we bring into the management aspect of it has been really where our biggest learnings have been over the last years in terms of saying, what is the form that we want to take for our collaboration? Is it just knowledge sharing? Is it just aligning capital? Is it just diversifying our skills? Is it coming together on a place, on a purpose? I think that's critical for us to really drive our overall vision of how we actually execute on collaboration.
Thank you. I think all four of you are like very well articulated, because there are challenges and pitfalls in both the coming together and the working together. So both stages of a collaborative action involves a lot of effort. And as someone was joking the other day, it's not just managing or building ecosystem, but it's actually managing different ecosystems. Because everybody, whether you're a funder or nonprofit, thinks you know the perfect answer to the solution you've been working on for 2 decades, right? So how do you unlearn and learn, like some of you were saying, and how do you then resource it, as Kurush rightly said, are critical. So on that note, I'll hand back to Akshay. Ourselves, we are learning as well. We thought we'll do 3 roundtables, but we don't want to miss the power of the great experience in the room. So we're going to slightly modify our format to try and use the last 20 minutes well. Over to you, Akshay.
Thank you, Pritha, and a big thank you to our panelists as well for sharing their thoughts. Very, very insightful. I'm sure it would be for the audience as well. So now we'll move the focus to all of you and tap into your expertise, your experiences of working on, complicated, vexing problems that exist, right? We spoke about different kind of sector focuses earlier. Just a quick raise of hands. Who all in the room are currently working on or are exploring initiatives related to climate adaptation, resilience, and related topics? Quite a few, unsurprisingly. And how many of us are really looking at gender, economic empowerment, and you can care for both climate and gender, obviously, but just a quick raise of hands, quite a few as well. And then lastly, how many of us are looking at healthcare in a very dedicated way? Again, quite a few. Good to see. So what we'll do now is take those 3 areas and move our focus a little bit on those problems themselves, on how do we look at climate, how do we look at gender, how do we look at health, and solving them for empowerment for especially vulnerable populations. So I'll pass it on to Anand to sort of facilitate this section. But a couple of questions that would love to sort of unpack with you all is, based on your experience, what are some areas that you see, what are some solutions that you see are ripe for more collaborative action? And in that vein, what are some geographies that you think, or other angles of, other population segments, for example, that need more attention based on your experience. So we'll dive deeper into some of those questions, but I'll invite Anant to sort of take it away. And we also have a few Slidos that you'll see on some of the sheets, and we also have it projected as well. As we're having this discussion, please feel free to just use your phone, log on into the Slido, and just add your thoughts there as well. So over to you, Anant.
Great, thanks. As we transition to the discussion, huge thanks to the panelists for sharing in a succinct way your learnings, and I'm sure the conversations will continue. Thank you.
Yeah. Half an hour.
Is this working? Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm going to make people a little uncomfortable today because everyone is a friend here. We are going to narrow this down. We'll have three. So we'll start with climate adaptation, resilience. I see, obviously, some people who are deep in it. But as we think about it, please also think about the intersection because, for example, gender, climate intersect very deeply. We'll double-click into gender, especially on the angle of empowerment. Again, we have leaders in the sector. But what I'd first like to do is, when we start with the climate, think of, okay, whatever is it that you're working on, if you are a funder, if you are either a CSR leader or you are a philanthropic leader or a foundation, stand up. If you feel in the next 5 years, you'd like to anchor a collaboration of some kind. It could be whichever pathway. This is obviously not a commitment. This obviously is not putting you on the spot saying you will do it come what may. But at some level, the initial journey, just like you invest in stocks, comes by taking a bit of a leap of faith. And once that leap of faith happens, much more happens. So if you are thinking of climate adaptation resilience, stand up if you are excited to and think you will take over the next 5 years an action which will, pave the way. My request to you is, if you're even 70% there, stand up. So, thank you, Prabhakar. Who else? Stand up, okay. So we have Arvind. I'm going to request the people who have stood up to, starting with Prabhakar, articulate two things. First, introduce yourself. Most know you, but still. And secondly, what is your dream? It's okay if we don't know how to get to the dream. But if there was one dream you have on the collaborative agenda, what would that be? And Prabhakar, the reason we want to do that, is some of your dreams might inspire others' dreams as well. So Prabhakar, please do that and then hand the mic to someone. Keep it brief, but over to you.
Thanks, Anant. So happy to see the whole discussions actually unfolding into this collaborative hub, and good luck to the Bridgespan group for taking it forward. So I am from ITC. I head the social investments function, and we also are on one end of the collaboratives where we are part of your collaboratives and exploring more. And specifically when we are looking at climate, and I'll just come down to a specific number. So today with our climate agriculture interventions, we reach out to about 25 lakh farmers. We believe 25 lakh farmers is a drop in the ocean. And the reason why we're looking for a collaborative is by putting the capabilities which can be created in the ecosystem, together can we reach out to 5 crore farmers. That's the real reason why we're looking at a collaborative.
Hi everyone. So I'm Lubna. I'm with an organization called Kadam. So at Kadam, we work with women artisans and we also work with natural fibers. We teach these women how to make products out of these natural fibers, which are mainly different kinds of grasses. Now, due to climate change, there is... Okay, so... Yeah. So the dream is basically, to make these natural fibers readily available to these women artisans, at all point in time, which is becoming kind of scanty and the resources are not available most of the time. So we're working towards kind of solving that.
Do you have a goal, North Star? Is it like 1 million?
Yeah, we do have a goal. So that's about 1 million women by 2030. Yeah.
And as you pass it on, the reason we are nudging a little bit to saying what is the North Star
Yeah. Yeah. Namaskar. Namaskar, myself Anu Mandal from Assam, Guwahati. On behalf of Our Creation Social Impact Foundation, we are working for the forest-dependent communities. It's again one of the best region to like share my views and हम लोग काम करते हैं जंगलों के आसपास जो महिलाएं रहते हैं और उनके लिए हम लोग प्रोवाइड करते हैं alternate livelihood through the value chain of handloom and sericulture. And the dream is the pure air. Each and everyone can be the part of the as a consumer, as a producers, as a artisans, or as a rearer, spinner, whoever. All are can be the part of the pure air. And yes, within the 2027, we want to. As of now, we have the 537 women artisans, but हम चाहते हैं कि हम 5,000 forest dwellers को अपने साथ incorporate करें one umbrella के अंदर, ताकि वो अपने जंगल के एरिया को छोड़ के कहीं ना जाए और they will be the part of the savior of the forest. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Vishal from Round Glass Foundation, and we work in Punjab. We've been working for the last 5 years on various areas of environment sustainability. We work with youth and with women. As of right now, we're at 2,000 villages. Our big, hairy agenda or goal is really to reach all 12,700 villages in Punjab by 2035. Very core for us is really looking at environment programs and how that can actually impact, how that has an impact on livelihoods. So one of the big goals we want to do is in the next 10 years, look at creation of almost 2 million jobs through various programs that we want to do.
Can I pass it?
Hi, my name is Alma Chopra. I'm from Gurgaon. I have an NGO, Alma Awakening Foundation. I'm a motivational speaker. Most of you have this on your table. You can take a look at that. My North Star, which I don't have any quantifiable roadmap to, my North Star is to extinguish the word disability from the dictionary. So that's my roadmap. So I definitely need collaboration for that. For that, I think in the session prior to this, we talked about awareness. So from the disability sector, I think even though there's a lot of hype on awareness, I think the mainstream society, whether you look at employment, whether you look at entertainment, it's not inclusive. And I think it's because people still have prejudices and biases towards people with disability. वो ये नहीं कर सकते, वो नहीं कर सकते. And the reason why the word disability needs to be extinguished from our dictionary, because those prejudices come from the word disability.
Hi, my name is Rajat. I head partnerships for BBC Media Action, which is the social impact of the broader BBC. Our global goal is to sort of use the power of comms and media to empower young people, not just on climate intent, but climate action. The big North Star that we're looking at by 2027 is to mobilize private entertainment media to create a business case for them to start programming more climate and gender-friendly programming and see a business value in them so that folks like us can move to other problems and they can take over.
Hi, I'm Arvind. I represent AVPN, which is a network of funders channeling capital into Asia. So far, from a climate perspective, Anant, we've channeled about $16 million by aggregating capital through our network. And from an adaptation perspective, specifically, we are trying to see if we can raise another fund around $5 million that we will channel to nonprofits across Asia in the next 3 years. Thanks.
So, hello everyone. मेरा नाम अनीशा है और हम लोग अभी एक ऑर्फन यूथ का नेटवर्क हम लोग बिल्ड कर रहे हैं. एक्चुअली मैं खुद ऑर्फनेज से ही हूँ और मैं जब बाहर निकली थी ऑर्फनेज से आफ्टर द 18 ईयर्स के बाद, तो मुझे काफ़ी challenges face करने पड़े थे, like housing ढूंढना या फिर skill and training और education. तो मैंने जो challenges face करे तो मुझे पता ना कि कोई resources नहीं है जिसके through मैं अपने challenges solve कर सकती हूँ. तो collaboration is मतलब सबसे बड़ा मतलब हमारे लिए solution है कि अगर हम ज़्यादा लोगों से collaboration कर सकते हैं तो हम ज़्यादा resources collect कर सकते हैं अपनी community के लिए. तो अभी हम लोगों ने राजस्थान में 900 caregivers का एक network बनाया है जिनको हम लोग try कर रहे हैं कि collaboration के through हम लोग किस तरह से इनकी problems को हम solve कर सकते हैं. जिसमें UNICEF है, अजीम प्रेम की फाउंडेशन है, Microsoft है जो हमें support कर रहा है कि किस तरह से हम उनको skill and training में build कर सकते हैं. And thank you so much.
So I'll come back to you. So aim here is not to be comprehensive, but what we are trying to do, and I think this is where the hub comes in, is to articulate some of these North Stars. As is quite exciting to hear, many of these North Stars is already creating clarity on how others can weigh in, but none of this is going to be possible alone. I'm going to switch to Pritha on gender, especially with a focus on economic empowerment, because again, nothing is possible if women are not, like leading the charge. So over to you, Pritha.
Thanks, Anand. So in the next few minutes, we'll switch to the segment of gender, like how each of you all are working on promoting gender equity and enabling more agency and power for women. Rather than empower, I think it's more power. We started the segment with saying, name your North Star. So in this, maybe if you all can just state one example of where you want to collaborate, so not where you're already, but where you want to collaborate and what kind of collaboration you're seeking. So a very specific question for those who are working on gender, whether you're a funder or a non-profit. Name one area where you'd like to collaborate for your big, bold dream, which we don't have time now to cover. And what's the collaboration you're looking for? A lot of hands up. We probably will cover about 5 to 6 of you. So I'll begin here. If you could just stand up and one-line introduction and then what you'd like to collaborate.
Hi, I'm Suhita. I am from Trickle Up organization. We work with the basically the PVTGs and the ultra poor. So my dream since beginning, I'm working with the women only, women farmers, women entrepreneurs. Last 16 years, I'm extensively across the country. So my dream is to empower economically the ultra poor women, because this gender equality comes with the economic empowerment. Is the collaboration towards these livelihoods opportunities, strengthening their economic opportunities. So financial literacy obviously is one of the biggest area, financial literacy. All these things are leading to the economic equality and equity.
Thank you. Maybe I'll come to...
Yes.
Oh, wow. You're going to have more than half the room stand up. Yeah, exactly. So...
Yeah. Hi. My name is Suresh Kotla. I am from the Institute for Sustainable Communities. We work on increasing gender, going beyond gender equality. What we see is, even though there's a talk about gender equity, but most of the interventions actually end up focusing on equality. So we want to increase gender equity in the green transition of India, very specifically in the agriculture sector and industrial sector, manufacturing of, for example, solar PV, and also implementation, and a lot of jobs at the same time, leadership level participation. And we are looking for collaboration in this area, how we can increase gender equity in green transition of India.
Thank you. Okay, we'll just come around the room. So maybe one more this side and then we'll switch to that for parity.
Hi everybody, I'm Smita Basak from Samhita. So Samhita has been focused on livelihoods. We were part of the Revive Alliance for the past 3 years, which has been very successful, over 700,000 lives impacted. Yeah. Our goal is to do women empowerment, not just empowerment, but then do it in a sustainable way. And one of the instruments that we have been piloting, and we found it to be successful, is blended finance. We did it in the past 3 years. We are looking to scale now, and that is where we are looking for more collaborative action from this room.
Great. Aarti?
on the other hand, in every supply chain, whether it's agri or whether it's manufacturing based, women are there in informal roles as part of the families or as in jobs or entrepreneurship, but that hasn't resulted in them either earning better or their well-being or their business growth. So we think that, and we are working with individual corporates to be able to look at, can you procure from women-owned enterprises? Can you look at up-strategizing women's roles in the value chain? This is a no-brainer for collaboration if you're able to work with a set of corporates and even a very small Lipton mandate, and we're saying we can actually collaborate, and the supplier ecosystem, the supply ecosystem and the intermediary capacity building ecosystem is very vibrant. That's the collaboration.
Thanks. So maybe Meera and then we can move back to.
I think intersectional issues are always left out, and we work with disabilities, so women with disabilities. My dream, and it's just happening, is to actually start a large project with collaborations, okay? So we've just signed up with a state government to work with the SHGs, to sensitize the entire SHGs in their state, and to link up women with disabilities with livelihoods. So it's a mind-boggling project which we just got yesterday. So now the idea is that how do we do the project design right, where you just get all collaborations together.
Want to go next?
So again, Round Glass Foundation in Punjab, Vishal. We want to look at, we want to get into every village with women for programs for women on bringing social and equity empowerment. We'd really like to collaborate on program design and also funding support on that.
Great, thanks. Over to you, ma'am. Yeah. You can.
I'm Meenakshi from Itasha Society, and we are focused on skilling for employment as well as income generation. So we are into entrepreneurship and employment-linked skilling. We work with several segments of the demographic. We work with older women from 30 to 55, training them for entrepreneurship, helping them set up, incubate, become successful. We work with young women for both employment and income, entrepreneurship. We also work with school.
Yeah, if you could just say
girls.
where you were looking to collaborate.
Yeah, the collaboration, therefore, is when we work in a geography with one project for entrepreneurship, we love to, in that geography, work with others who would support the employment-linked work as well as the school-linked work. So we are looking for depth in every community we are in so that we can make a systemic change in that community, in the mindset of the community.
I think we'll have time only for one more on that side, and then we're going to end with Shraddha. Yeah, please go ahead, ma'am.
Yes.
And then maybe with the others we could pick up offline because the hub has just got launched, so we're going to be working on this for the next few years. So we'd love to actually capture those voices we couldn't hear in this room, and apologies for that.
Yes. Good afternoon to everybody. I'm from Smart Bharat. My name is Anita Pandey. And I have a topic which, everybody would be interested in, and that is our population. So we work on basic various strategies for stabilizing our population. Because otherwise, no matter whatever we all do, it's just a drop in the ocean. When you get into a metro or a bus, we do two things. Either we look for a seat or we wait for the next station to drop off people. So my collaboration is with everybody, all organizations. We first, to start with, we need input as to what are the various methods which we can adopt, because we cannot reduce population 150 plus, but we can stabilize it. So for the next 10 years, we are planning to stabilize our population. We are working with Ministry of Family and Health Welfare. So I would like that if you can give us inputs. So I will give my address and everything. So you can give us inputs to begin with, and we can, have more collaborations later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll end. Okay, sorry. Just last one, since we've had a lot of women voices in the room, and then I'll.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashish. I'm from Treemouse. We're a strategy design consultancy. So we do a lot of research and program design, curriculum design, a strategy design. So we go to the grassroots, understand the communities. We take a lot of pride in understanding human behavior, and with those research findings, really, draw
So if you
strategies
could
for.
just keep it brief to where you're looking for collaboration, because this is not.
I'm saying that there are just so many people who are actually looking for collaboration with design firms. So
Sure.
I'm just sharing that.
Yeah, thank you.
With the group.
Over to Shailja, because Lasra, as we started in the opening, has done a lot of collaborations. So we'd love to hear from you, Shailja.
Yeah, so quick 2 areas of collaboration, and already found collaborators. And to what Aarti also said, I was late because a big pharma company just said, what can you do to ensure that middle management women move to senior management? So we're looking for collaboration. We have 6 organizations within the healthcare flagship organizations lined up who want to do the work of shifting middle management women into leadership positions. It's all the way from individual empowerment to working on sources to getting women in the pipeline. We don't know how to get this done. It's a very difficult problem. So looking for partners who actually have worked within private or not for private sector to do this. And secondly, also collaborating with the Women Lead India Alliance that Bridgespan is a part of, but to also do some of this matchmaking and exchanging.
Thank you. I don't know if we have time for health, but maybe in the interest of time, and I want to just request Karan to come in, because mental health is a ticking time bomb in India. So in the interest of time, maybe we'll just have Karan. But the third segment we were hoping to dive deeper was health for all. But maybe with Karan, we'll then close out.
And should I mention areas of collaboration? Or,
yeah, if you could maybe just briefly introduce your current area of collaboration, where you're looking specifically for more collaboration.
Thanks, Pritha. And hello, everyone. I'm Karan Malik from the India Mental Health Alliance. We're a new organization, just a few months old. And as the name suggests, Alliance is part of our name. Collaboration is built into the way we are approaching all of our work and the way we design and look at mental health. Our focus is on mental health, and our goal is to mainstream mental health and make sure that it's not thought of as a separate, very technical issue, something for the experts, very biomedical issue, but we can bring it into the mainstream and we can integrate mental health into education, into livelihoods, climate work, because without bringing that in, we are not going to be able to achieve the SDGs or whatever form of goals now we have, right? And our aspiration is to make sure that mental health is able to move away from being seen as a purely biomedical issue, one for the experts, to one where we can co-create with communities and make sure that we are able to work on preventive and promotive health, and make sure that there is collaboration across different focus areas around mental health. So that's the goal, and that's where we're looking to collaborate.
Great. I think with that we can close the session. We're already sort of over time, but just want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us today and being a part of the conversation. Special thanks to our panelists as well to share their views.